And let's get our PowerPoint up. All right. Waiting for people to join. Welcome, everybody. Okay. All right, welcome to the August 2022 panel meeting. The Zoom meeting instructions for today: attendees will be muted with the following exceptions. Presenters will be unmuted during their presentations. Contractor representatives will be unmuted during their proposal introduction, and if called upon by a panel member. Public comment will be done throughout the meeting and when announced by the acting chairperson at the appropriate times. For public comment, please use the raise hand feature to request to speak. Wait until your name is called and the host will unmute you so that you can speak. There will be a 3-minute limit per speaker. And I believe Desiree or Melissa is up with the roll call.
Hey, Melissa, would you present the roll call, please?
Yes. Good morning. I'll be taking the roll call today. Gloria Bell.
Present.
Chris Dombrowski.
Present.
Gretchen Newsom. Janice
Present.
Roberts.
Oh, here.
Yeah, I see Gretchen's here and I heard her. So Janice Roberts.
Here.
Rick Smiles.
Present.
Douglas Tracy.
Here.
Ernesto Morales. And Madison Hall.
Present.
Thank you.
So we have a quorum, and so.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to ask the panel members if they have had an opportunity to look at today's agenda and if there's any comments or concerns regarding the agenda. Okay, and before we make a motion, I'm going to ask if there's any hands raised for any comment on the agenda today.
Not at this time.
Okay, so with that, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Motion to approve, Rick Smiles.
Second, Gloria.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you. And on the panel meeting notes from last month's panel, that would be the July panel meeting minutes, I'm going to open it up to the public. Does the public have any comments regarding the panel meeting notes from July's panel meeting?
Not at this time.
Okay, hearing none. I'm going to ask the panel if they have any comments or concerns on the meeting minutes from July's panel meeting. Hearing none, I'd like to have a motion.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve.
We have
Second.
a motion, a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. All right, so with that, I'm going to pass it on to our Executive Director, Raj Javier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, panel members, stakeholders, and staff. I'd like to also welcome the following managers who will be presenting the proposals to you later this morning: Kellen Hernandez, Ryan Swire, Chris Hoover, and Jana Lazarevich. Today, you will see 29 proposals, which includes 4 delegation orders with a total value of about just over $7.4 million in funding requests. So just a couple of things from me before I hand it over to the team for their reports, because the preponderance of the updates will come from the team this morning. So I want to be as brief as possible. First, as we're doing this panel meeting virtually, we are still going to hold some in-person panel meetings over the course of this year. So as a reminder, our September panel meeting will be an in-person meeting in Sacramento. We're also trying to nail down a date for the next policy committee meeting. We know that we have a few pressing items that we want to make sure that we discuss through policy committee. So that meeting's likely to be held either in late September or early October. Once we settle in on a date, we'll send out notification to everyone and then post it on our website as well. We are also planning that meeting to be held virtually as well. And as I reported to you last month, we have contracted with Civic Makers to facilitate the discussions around what could potentially replace our current first in, first out application process or methodology. And as I promised last month, Jaime's going to provide you more detail and information around that entire process and project later this morning during his updates. And he will be introducing the Civic Makers facilitation team to you all as well. And lastly, you may have seen the stakeholder notification update about CaliForce. And if you haven't seen it, essentially the CaliForce team announced that we have officially completed the migration of contracts dating back to the 15-16 fiscal year. This is a huge accomplishment by all those involved, which included staff and contractors. You're going to hear more about this from Tara during her report out. I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you very much to the entire team for all their hard work just getting us here to this point. Great job, everyone. So with that, Madam Chair, I wanted to be brief on my comments. So unless there are any questions from the panel for me specifically, I'd like to hand it over to Peter for his updates.
Does the panel have any comments for Reg? Okay, so Peter, you're up.
Good morning, panel, stakeholders, and staff. So we're going to be starting a new series of educational presentations at the panel meetings so that you can hear some more of the stories of how ETP funds have been used successfully. This may include stories from programs that are working with our community college partners, our other multiple employer contractors, seed awardees, etc. Since this next panel meeting in September is primarily devoted to apprenticeship proposals, we're going to kick off this series with an educational presentation with apprenticeship program at one union, one non-union, and just to give you a little bit of background about how the funds are being spent and some of their individual success stories. Speaking of apprenticeship, we are on track to present many program proposals at the September panel meeting, with the rest coming in October. And then later in the year, you will see a handful of non-traditional non-construction proposals, probably just 3 or 4 that will come to you. Developing so many of these applications for the panel meetings has been really a big effort by our staff, and all hands on deck effort. And I just wanted to thank the regional office staff, as well as Willie Atkins and the PPU unit. And then briefly regarding our general funds for this fiscal year, Diana, Mario, Ilya, and Robert from our staff continue to solicit stakeholder input as they develop the guidelines for both the healthcare and the literacy funds. We plan to bring the guidelines to the October Policy Committee and then to the October panel meeting for your consideration. If the guidelines are approved, then ETP can start accepting applications in December, and we hope to bring the proposals to the panel in early 2023. So that concludes my remarks and report. I'll turn it over to Tara, unless there are any questions from the panel.
Does the panel have any questions for Peter? All right, so Tara.
Good morning, panel members. I do have a slide that we could put up too. And as Reg mentioned, migration is done. I mean, how many years did it take us to get here? It took us some time. So don't want to say that word migration again, actually. So really, really proud of our staff. They all hands on deck all across the entire agency, each and every unit, from preparing files to loading the data, to doing validation, to testing, to patients from our contractors and subcontractors asking, can we see this information? It's now all in one system. So we have one system of data that contains 7 years of contract data, like we said, from 15, 16 to today, and it's just going to keep growing. So we have almost 2,500 contracts in there now. Just to speak to a little bit of the amount of work that it was involved, there was over 10 million records. And we're not talking data points, it's 10 million records that contain multiple data points. So all that work to making sure it was loaded in correctly in the right areas and the validation and testing. Now our contractors and subcontractors, they can go in the system and they can see prior contract information. So this is going to help us ETP even with repeat contract information, reporting, strategic planning, all types of information we can do now. So thank you so much. So done with migration. And for our Cali grant system, that is definitely up and running. Like we said, we've actually are adding 2 more state board grants that are going to be released in the application stage end of this month, early September. So we're up to 9 grants inside of the Cali grant system now. And then on our enterprise support, ETP, thanks to our ITU unit, we have submitted security documentation that's required by the California Department of Technology, making sure that our ETP is secure with holding all our data and our information and validating that through CDT's agency. And just waiting to hear back if we have any future support or corrections we need to make sure we're more secure. And that's the end of my update.
Thanks, Tara, and thanks for all your team's hard work on this. I know we went through a lot of trials and tribulations as we went through this over the last several years. So I'm glad you feel really comfortable and that everything's where it needs to be at this point. So very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael.
Good morning, panel members. Mike Cable, staff attorney here with your legal unit report. First, you should have a copy of the legislation memo in your panel packet. As you can see, we're still tracking pertinent bills in this legislative session and nothing too significant to report this time as the bills continue to make their way through committee and amendments. The legislative calendar, should probably comment about that. The last day for fiscal committees to meet passed on August 12th. The last day to amend bills on the floor was yesterday, August 25th. And this coming Wednesday, August 31st, is the last day for each house to pass bills, and the legislature begins its final recess at that time. At that point, September 30th, which I think is the date of our next panel meeting, is also the last day for the governor to sign or veto bills that have passed the legislature. So stay tuned as the next legislative report will be narrowed down to those remaining bills that are left in this legislative session, as well as including a report on what's made it and what didn't make it this legislative session. Lastly, and you may have seen some correspondence about this already, but we will be conducting a few basic training sessions for panel members, managers, and staff, which will include such gripping topics as the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, Robert's Rules of Order, an overview of conflicts of interest, and review of some of ETP's more compelling enabling legislation and regulations. This is going to be a good time. You're not going to want to miss this, and we look forward to making this happen with all of you in the coming month. With that, that's my report, unless anyone has any particular questions for me at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, that's a good session coming up with all of those things that you're going to discuss. It's probably long awaited, and we probably needed this many, many years ago. So appreciate you putting this together. So
we're anticipating a very interesting conversation and a lot of vigorous question and answers.
I do have one comment on the legislation. I always see this thing called held under submission. Can you give me kind of an update on exactly what that means and what is held under submission? Doesn't really give me a whole bunch of guidelines.
You're probably seeing that with some of the bills that have more of a budget component to it. So when it gets into committee, oftentimes on those bills, they'll put it in suspense or into a suspense file or hold those. There's certain reasons for doing it. For example, we had that AB 1106, and I think there's other bills that talk about that this will be contingent upon funding of that particular bill or legislation. So it's kind of a holding pattern. It's, to be honest with you, it's where most bills go to die. But that's kind of where it's at. I don't know if Reg wants to chime in on that because I know he's pretty intimately.
Yeah, so Mike's right that when it gets held and sent over to another committee, that's what that term means. It's typically going into the appropriations committee, and if there's money there and it gets appropriated, then it gets pushed forward. If there's no money there, they typically don't move the bill unless it gets funded.
I see. Yeah, I see that term all the time, and I don't know kind of what the parameters around it. Is it, where does it go? What's happening with it? All
Then
right.
remember, we have deadlines too. So like they need to get bills out of the house per, with origination on certain dates. And sometimes when they get held that way, that's where I say they tend to die because they don't get out of the house. So.
Okay, well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for all that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jaime.
Good morning, panel members and stakeholders. Thank you once again for the opportunity to provide a summary of the Employment Training Panel's funding. I would like to start by sharing that we currently do have a backlog of invoices, and we have heard from some concerns from contractors and subcontractors regarding the delays associated with processing invoices. So I wanted to share a little bit of information today here. I would like to first apologize for any delays and state that we are working diligently to process the invoices as quickly as possible. I'd also like to reassure everyone that that ETP will pay all of the invoices for earned funds. So there should not be any concerns about that. However, as I said, I would like to provide some clarification as to why the delays have occurred and what we're doing moving forward to try to address them. First, we do have a normal annual end of the state fiscal year reconciliation that occurs. This usually occurs mid-June to mid-July and requires that all state agencies complete all the processing of all of their fiscal components. And so that prevents us from being able to process and pay any invoices during that time. That's a normal every year occurrence. But unfortunately, and secondarily, this year, we had an issue with the system that we use for processing our invoices. We use EDD's CalJob system to process the invoices, which then submits them to the state controller's office for payment. And unfortunately, that system was down for approximately a month, almost a month this past year. So between those two things, that created a significant amount of delay in processing the invoices, which has now created the backlog. Now, the fiscal team is diligently working very long hours, including overtime, to try and reduce the backlog of invoices. We continue also to work to increase staffing levels on the fiscal side. And we are looking at some process improvement opportunities that we've identified. In one such area is in regards to the concurrent enrollment and the use of training hours between two contracts. At this time, it is creating delays when our fiscal team has to go back and try to reconcile those things. Again, I would like to say that we are well on our way to reducing it and eliminating the backlog that was created in June and July. And I look forward to providing you and the rest of the panel members an update either next month or soon thereafter to be able to state that we've eliminated the backlog. Before I move on to the funding, are there any questions in regards to that?
No, I know that there's been a lot of concern on that. I've gotten a couple calls and emails regarding some of the backlog of funding, but I know that it's just a one-time situation and it'll be corrected soon. So just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. But thanks for that update, Jaime.
Thank you. All right, and moving on then, regarding the funding, as Director Javier stated, today's panel meeting is for approximately $7.4 million. That does include 4 approved delegation orders for a total of $142,025. If all proposals scheduled for this panel are funded today, the panel will be approving 29 projects. After today's panel meeting, the employment training panel will have approximately $80 million left in contracting capacity for this fiscal year 22-23. Regarding demand, we have 246 applications currently in demand. 134 applications are being worked in regional offices. 33 applications are under review by the application assessment unit, and 79 applications have been submitted that are pending review. The estimated value of those 246 applications is $53.3 million. Which breaks down as follows: $21 million in demand for single employer contracts, 2.3 million demand for multiple employer contracts, 8.2 million in demand for small business, and $748,086 in demand for critical proposals, and finally $21.1 million in demand for apprenticeships. Regarding our allocations, we are currently, as you can see, we're currently well within our allocations for this fiscal year. That is the final portion of my report, and I have one action item related to the consent calendar. At this time, I would like to request the panel members identify which proposals, if any, they would like to pull from today's consent calendar, and then a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of the identity of the proposals being pulled, which will be heard individually and in order.
Okay, thank you, Jaime. Before I go ahead and open that up, I wanted to ask you about next September's panel meeting. I know we talked about the majority of them will be apprenticeships. Will there be any other projects on there but apprenticeships, or they're all going to be apprenticeships that you know of?
That I know of as of right now, they're all going to be apprenticeships. We've been
Okay.
working all of the apprenticeship applications to try to get them all in next month.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so going back to the consent calendar, so I'm going to ask the panel members if there's any consent items they'd like to pull off the consent calendar.
I have a few, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Tab 4, East West Pronto Lifeline Ambulance. Tab 6, Field Fresh Foods Incorporated. Tab 7, Ghirardelli Chocolate Company. Tab 9, JR Putnam Inc. Tab 10, James Kasia Plumbing, and tab 11, the Tortilleria. I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. I apologize.
Okay, so just to confirm that, we got tab 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11 on your end.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
I also have one other than the ones you mentioned. I'd also like to pull tab 12 as well. So that's pretty much pretty good agenda items to be pulling. So we're pulling 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. So with the remaining on the consent calendar, I'm going to open it up to the public first, if they have any comments on the consent calendar as it stands.
We do have one hand raised. Larry, go ahead.
I raised my hand. I had a question going back to Jaime and the payout for or invoice processing. What should be a reasonable time for an invoice, either a progress payment or a final payment? If I submit a progress payment today or an invoice today, as an example, when should I expect that to be processed?
So Larry, can I just ask you to, state that again? I know probably Jaime has the answer for you, but we'd really like to, keep that to the public comment at the end of our meeting versus in the middle of our consent calendar, if that's okay with you.
Okay, it was just a reference to his comments made earlier about processing of the invoices.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be
Okay.
more questions regarding that, Larry. So if you can kind of hold that until the end of the meeting, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Is there any other comments regarding the consent calendar?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the remaining of the consent calendar?
Motion to approve, Gloria.
Second, Rick.
So we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you. All
Thank you,
right,
Madam Chair. Appreciate that.
so Jaime, I think you're up again with your introductions.
I am. So do have a PowerPoint presentation. If we could bring that up, please. Thank you. All right, so as was previously mentioned by Director Javier, we do have a consultant group that we have identified, which will be helping us in reviewing our first in, first out application process, as well as supporting some capacity building and training components for employment training panel staff. So the Civic Makers has been identified as our consultant team. If you can go on to the next slide, please. And our team is made up of Judy Brown, Virginia Hamilton, Brittany Henry, and Leah Tremblay Adams. Apologize if I said that name incorrectly. They are, again, part of the Civic Makers team. I will share a little bit more information about Virginia Hamilton, as I'm sure some of you may recognize that name. Virginia Hamilton worked with the Employment Development Department for 17 years, then also was the executive director for the California Workforce Association for 15 years. And lastly, for 6 years, was the regional administrator for the U.S. Department of Labor. She is a very skilled facilitator, focused on human-centered design, has obviously a plethora of workforce development knowledge and experience, and is also a teacher, instructor. So she is a tremendous asset and will help ETP significantly as we move forward on this particular project. Next slide, please. So the scope of work, just sharing with everybody here, as I mentioned, there are two main components to what the Civic Makers will be providing for us. The first, as I mentioned, was the review of the first in, first out application process. The intent here is to really look at our process and identify if that is the best process moving forward, or if not, what is a better process and how can we incorporate that into everything that ETP does. We expect that there will be some changes that will come from this, and we do expect that it is going to be changing all of our processes significantly moving forward. The second part is capacity building and training. Obviously, we are doing a fantastic job of training and supporting employers with training, and we want to be able to do that in-house as well and support our staff. So the Civic Makers team is going to help us with developing some leadership training and other types of training to be able to increase the knowledge and skill sets of our staff here at ETP. So that's going to be a big component of it as well. And they'll do that through this first in, first out process, meaning that they will, as they're going through doing the first in, first out process, they will be training our team members on facilitating, capacity building, all of those types of things. Next slide, please. So the human-centered design, which is one of the approaches they're going to focus on, involves human input through the entire process. It is a very collaborative problem-solving design approach. It does incorporate multiple stakeholders, which we have plenty of at ETP, and it is a very creative and experimental approach to looking at all of the different assets of particular problem. The design is intended to be an end user design in mind, so meaning that they're looking at it from the perspective of how does it impact the end users, which in this case are our contractors, subcontractors, and employers that are involved in the application process. Next slide, please. So this is just a very high level timeline of what this is going to look like. We are hoping that we can implement the new approach in June or July of next year. But this gives you an idea of what's going to occur at a very high level over the next year or so that's remaining. As you can see, we are going to have stakeholder interviews. We will make sure to engage with all of the different stakeholders involved. That includes the panel members, as well as the employers and contractors, subcontractors involved. And with that, I believe that is the last slide. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jaime. Does the panel members have any questions for Jaime regarding this, the Civic Maker, what their intent is regarding the in and out process of defining the proper way to look at our applications as they come through? And did you say, Jaime, that also you're going to have some, they're going to speak to us here, some of the design team?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we do have with us today Virginia Hamilton and Judy Brown. And if it is okay with you, Madam Chair, would like to give them a brief opportunity to say a few words.
Sure.
Virginia, would you like to start?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Madam Chair, and I call him Reg, who I've known for many years. We're very excited to do this work. As Jaime said, I've been around the workforce development system in California for many, many years, and in fact, was working for the administration when SWEDA was enacted, which is the mother of the Employment Training Panel. And I only want to say that the process that we're engaged in will be open, collaborative, transparent, and done in a way that really anchors the work on the needs and experiences of employers in California. By anchoring on them as opposed to on processes or paperwork or whatever that's underway, we're gonna, we think, create a very fair and open way in which we'll look at the existing system and then come up with ideas for alternate ways to do this, which we will then bring back to you. We will end up with a set of recommendations for you to choose from. Judy, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Virginia. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Really appreciate being here. First off, I just want to say congratulations on the migration, Tara. Sorry, had to mention that again. 10 million records. That's a big deal. Mentioning that because our firm, Civic Makers, for the past 7 years have been working with primarily municipalities throughout Northern California, but some state agencies as well. So for the past 5 years, we have facilitated all of the open enrollment human-centered design trainings for CDT. So if that security audit went well with them, they probably took our course. Just kidding, maybe. And another project that I wanted to mention that we're excited to integrate as part of our experience here was with California State Library in helping them to conduct user research for the calgrants.gov. And also, we're really just here to enhance Virginia's capacity. As we know, she's one person doesn't scale. So we are hoping to be able to bring in both our experience with training state and municipal agencies in this process. And I'm super excited that we are here with you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for sharing that update. I know we're going to be excited to see where we go with this. I know that in the past, the ETP staff has done, everything they can to move projects forward. There's been some glitches, of course, but hopefully we can, have an outside influence, kind of seeing, how they can help support the ETP staff as well as the stakeholders and the panel as well. And I'm glad that you're asking for panel recommendations, because, you know, we're the ones who see the final product, and sometimes we wonder why that ever got through to begin with. So I'm kind of excited to be a part of that. So
Madam Chairman,
yes.
I have a comment. This is Gloria. I'm excited about this. I have my certification from Harvard from HCD, and I've seen it used in private industry. I've never seen it used in governmental. So I'm excited in my opinion, a private product is being used on the side of governmental use. So I'm pretty excited about the concept, especially because it's around treating people and business together. And being a people person, I think it's going to really behoove us well as well. So I look forward to more information on that and actually the results. So pretty cool.
Yeah, great, thanks, Gloria. Any other comments from the panel regarding this, the Civic Makers? Hearing none, I guess we're going to start reviewing our proposals. So with that, we're going to go ahead and review the proposals that were pulled from the consent calendar. So we'll start with tab number 4.
Yeah, up first is East West Pronto Inc., DBA Lifeline Ambulance. Representing this proposal are Brian Lazeller, Director, and Barry Menzel, Consultant.
Right. So Gretchen, did you have some comments you'd like to discuss regarding this proposal?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So this is a pretty significant amount for it to be on consent, and I wanted to ask the applicants some questions pertaining to the wages that are presented for the emergency medical technicians, the EMTs, where it states 140, which is the bulk of the trainees, are going to be paid $18 to $20 an hour, which seems pretty low for an EMT, someone kind of helping make sure that we reach the hospital safely and has our lives in their hands. And if you could elaborate for me on how soon they can move beyond that wage of $18 to $20 an hour to the second tier of $20 and a penny to $25 an hour. And is the training kind of combined into that? As they receive training, do their wages go up?
Morning.
Morning.
Hi, I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank the ETP panel, Robert, Lisa, and Mark for the help we received in getting to where we are today with the panel. And Gretchen, to answer your question, the wages, we are looking to increase them in the next 6 months. To be able to raise the wages, we've been looking to the county and the city that govern our ability of what we can charge. Simply, as much as we would like to increase the wages, we're limited simply because of reimbursements that we are looking with, for example, the state of California to increase Medi-Cal reimbursement. So today we are in a bit of a tight spot simply between the cost of fuel, the cost of insurance, as well as the cost of supplies, and we couldn't even buy new vehicles. So we are in a little bit of a squeeze today. We recently have given a wage increase, and we do have call bonuses, we do have retention bonuses, we are doing scholarship programs through paramedic. We are doing a lot of various programs as well, because we do understand the importance of paying a living wage to first responders. And we were the first company in Los Angeles or Orange County to take our EMTs to $18 an hour.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Another question I had pertaining to this was, it states in the application that Life is requesting a decrease in the full-time employment hours from 35 hours per week to 30 hours per week. And I think that this might be attributed to medical benefits as well. And you state in the application that industry standard. Could you elaborate a little bit more? It's an industry standard to only work 30 hours a week and be considered full-time.
Absolutely. So what I can assure you, it has our health insurance benefits are at 30 hours a week. And we are on what's called an alternative work week. So the EMTs can do 14-hour shifts per week. And over 10 is overtime. So a lot of the times we're balancing the full-time benefits along with a lot of our EMTs are in college. So we're trying to balance their full-time college hours and their ability to have benefits and full-time employment. So they are working 3 full shifts per week with the ability to pick up a 4th. And so we are giving the full benefits, they're accruing PTO. We're able to do that and coincide with their school work week, their school schedule.
Just wanted to thank you for that. So point that out. So that was good.
My pleasure.
Scrolling through that questions. So thank you for that. Appreciate your feedback.
All right, does any other panel members have any questions regarding this proposal? Okay, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Any public comment regarding this proposal?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so with that, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second, Gloria.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you all for the opportunity.
Thank you. Tab number 6.
Yep, up next is for tab 6. This is for Field Fresh Foods Incorporated. Representing the proposals today are Jimmy Pedrosa, VP, and Maggie Chapman, consultant.
All right. So I also pulled this one. And I just want to give kind of a little bit of history of why I pulled so many myself. I'm going to be talking primarily this month around what we call productive lab. And a lot of, there might be some concern or confusion around exactly what productive lab is. So if the, employers and the contractors and subcontractors would really want to know what it is, you can pull up a little summary page on the ETP website that talks about productive laboratory training. And it's not so much in the laboratory, which a lot of people may get confused with, but it is actually what we would call, when you're actually producing goods for sale on pieces of machinery that can't be replicated in a classroom or on a webcast or on the computer, or even if it can't be simulated with like a prototype machine of some sort. So most of productive lab has to do with machinery now, and robotics and things that cannot be moved from place to place. So I wanted to have somebody have understanding regarding what that means, because I'm afraid that a lot of the contractors and even subcontractors don't understand what productive lab is. And so as panel members, we actually have a decision to make sometimes whether we're going to approve it or not. It's not automatic. It's on a case-to-case basis that we can make these approvals. And we have to see a good case behind it. So that's what I looked for on these contracts. And it can't be all productive lab. And when I did the math on many of these projects, we had anywhere from 85 to over 110% of the dollars spent on productive lab only. And to me, that's just way over the intent of productive lab. So with that, those are just a couple of concerns that I have. I just wanted to get those up front with everyone so they know where we're coming from. And so we may be requesting that you cut some of your productive lab hours. And so with that, I just want you to be prepared for that. So before I begin my comments on Field Fresh, Gretchen, you also pulled this one as well. So what's your comments regarding this contract?
Well, Madam Chair, I share many that you've already espoused concerning productive lab. Seems like our panel packet this month is really heavy in that concept. And again, I share those same concerns, but for this one, I also had the concerns around job creation, job number 2. And starting off the new trainees at a lower wage than their counterparts under job number 1. And I wanted to see if the applicant would be willing to move those minimum wages up to the same minimum wages of job number 1. So moving like operations, operator, production, quality control, and those folks from $15 an hour to what it is in job number 1.
Hi, good morning, panel members. This is Jimmy from Field Fresh Foods. So do you guys hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, hi. So right now we're in unincorporated Los Angeles, so the minimum wage is $15.96. So we've actually gone up on minimum wage as of July 1st. And we do have plans to bump up some of these base salaries for some of these positions. With wage inflation and some of the things that are happening in our local area, we have to be more competitive in the marketplace. Yes, that's definitely in our plans.
Okay, can we have agreement on that, that for your job creation, job number 2, that you're going to move those wages up to the same wage range as job number 1?
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you. Turn it back to you, Jan.
Okay, thanks, Gretchen. Yeah, I have just some concerns. This is how I figured some of your productive lab out. And, here's the deal is that if we don't kind of start curtailing this, you could actually do your whole contractor on productive lab. And that's not the intent of productive lab. So you're asking for 168 of your employees out of 220. That's 75% of your employees requesting up to 40 hours of productive lab. So that's doing the math, that's about $155,000 worth of productive lab. Your contract is for $192,000. So you see where I'm coming from with this? It's not so much that, you're doing productive lab. It's just that it's just way too much productive lab. And I don't think as ETP, we should be paying for all your training to also produce goods for your company. So to me, it's like double dipping off funds. So I do see that there could be some productive lab, but I like to bring the hours down. And I think Ryan, you also had mentioned that you already talked to the employer about this, but bringing it down to 20 hours of productive lab and then doing a one-to-one instruction. Now, one-to-one instruction is very important for productive lab. I mean, at times we can approve maybe a 2-to-1 ratio. And then, in certain fields, we can even approve a 10-to-1 ratio. But most of the time, one-to-one is what productive lab is about. It's about a trainer with one trainee working on a piece of machinery, and that's all that trainer does. The trainer isn't supervising, the trainer isn't working on another machinery, the trainer isn't sweeping up floors. The trainer is actually working with the trainee on this piece of equipment. So I just want to have you understand that. So I'm asking you to also do a one-to-one instruction and then no more than 20 hours of productive lab.
Yeah, so let me fill in the blanks there a little bit. So we have over 400 different machines that we use to process our fruits and vegetables. And we're constantly making investments in those machines, and it requires a lot of training around operational training for the machine itself, and then, safety training. We use a system called Alchemy, which is a learning management system, and that runs on iPad. So when we actually do our productive lab training on the floor, we actually do one-on-one training. So they watch a video on the iPad. We do an observation to make sure everything's safe and they're operating the machine safely and well. So it is one-to-one, just to be clear.
Okay, that's fine. And then, having 168 employees, doing 40 hours of training, if they do, I'm just wondering how many trainers you have too. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this productive lab. So that's why, I come from manufacturing, so I'm aware of kind of productive lab and what's the intent is. And everyone has machinery, sir. I mean, every company manufacturing has machinery. There's some highly technical parts of machinery. I mean, bagging fruits and vegetables. I mean, a lot of that can be replicated in a classroom with a simulation device of some sort, or maybe a video. But, it doesn't necessarily mean that just because they run a piece of machinery on the floor, that should be productive lab. So,
Madam President, I have a question as well.
Okay, go ahead, Gloria.
Hi, in regards to alchemy, because it was mentioned, I'm real familiar with alchemy and the product of alchemy, and it's a good product. So the question I have to the Field Fresh Food Group is, in regards to your curriculum, how much is that alchemy opposed to an actual trainer, a live trainer?
So alchemy, we have two different modules. We have the alchemy, which is a computer based training modules that have videos around HACCP plans and good manufacturing practices and things like that. They actually have a very good video library in English and Spanish, which is very useful for us. But what I'm referring to on the iPad is Alchemy Coach, which allows us to create training videos on the floor where we can do observations, and that feeds into the learning management system. So I'm talking specifically about Alchemy Coach, which is for the iPads. Yeah.
So how do you conduct your training? How do you conduct your safety training? Do you use that with your computer-based alchemy, or do you do that hands-on?
So all of our supervisors do a huddle up before production, and they document all of the safety huddle ups, and we do have a safety coordinator that coordinates the topics every week that we need to cover.
Got that. Okay. And how about your orientation? New hire orientation? Do you use alchemy for that, or do you use a live trainer?
We have both. We actually use a live trainer, and then we also use some GMP videos and HACCP videos for new employees throughout.
Got it. Thank you.
Right. Any other comments from the panel regarding this proposal? So just to clarify, we are talking about raising the wages from the new employees to the retraining wages to make them at parity. And then also I'm requesting one-to-one training, as well as reducing the up to 40 hours of productive lab to 20 hours productive lab. And before we make a motion on that, is there any comments regarding the representatives for this contract with those recommendations?
I have no problem with the recommendation. We exchanged a couple of emails yesterday with Ryan and Maggie, and we will make those modifications, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Does the panel have any other comments regarding this proposal?
I concur, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public to make sure that the public doesn't have any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so then we'll go ahead and take that motion. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
And do we have a second?
Second with those amendments.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, tab number 7.
Good morning, panel. Madam Chair, please turn to tab 7 here. This is a training proposal for Ghirardelli Chocolate Company. They are a priority industry and a repeat contractor. There is a union involved, the Bakers, Confectionery, Tobacco Workers, and Grain Millers International Union Local 125, and a support letter has been received. There is a correction to the PL courses to be included, as the first 4 were added in air. So keep that in mind. And the total ETP funding being requested for $110,400. And here today to answer your questions are Matt Ish, Senior Support Supervisor, Dana Middleton, Production Staff Training Specialist, and Michelle Reichener from Training Funding Partners.
Thank you. So Gretchen, I'm going to ask you why that you had pulled this project.
The high level of productive lab. The same, almost.
Yeah. So yeah. So Yeah, there's 113% of productive lab on this, Michelle. So I'm just curious, and then you look under the productive lab training agenda, you've got, and I know that we just heard from Chris that 4 of those items should have been pulled. See, these are the concerns that I have. This is all we see. And when I see that, I said, you know, GMPs are something that is done in orientation. It's done on either through computer-based or classroom or even on web-based training. It's not good manufacturing practice actually aren't done on the floor per se, and it shouldn't be included in productive lab. So those are my my comments regarding that. So so Gretchen, did you have any recommendations on this? Because I certainly do, but.
Love to hear your recommendations on this with your
Okay.
background.
Okay, so, yeah, so.
It's
yeah,
too,
it's way too much. So I reduced the productive lab. You have it up to 60 hours. I mean, I would take it down to 20 hours of productive lab. And you have, oh, you know, 100 of your 120 employees are requesting productive lab. I don't have any problem with that if we take it down to 20 hours of productive lab only. These are pretty much, you know, kind of arbitrary numbers that we're throwing out at the moment because, you know, we're going to be talking more about it later on a subcommittee. But at this point, I mean, if you look at the contract, Michelle, I'm not sure exactly what you had in mind by doing, you know, almost 113, over 13% of the contracted amount under productive lab. So I'm going to open up to Michelle and have her explain that to me.
Sure. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Michelle Rickner with Training Funding Partners. So the design behind it is not that it would be 113%. It just gives you the flexibility. And so Dana, who's on the phone also to comment. You know, productive lab is clearly, as you know, the other contractor mentioned, a critical part of their piece as far as that skills transfer. But we had already talked this week about, you know, expecting the reduction here at panel. And we're fine with that 20 hours per person. And, you know, they've made some changes internally. They hired a new person to develop more instructor-led curriculum. So they should, you know, they will be just fine earning all the money, even at that capped 20 hours per person.
Okay, that's great. And the reason that we're kind of trying to limit this, Michelle, is not, you know, to be, you know, any kind of have any issues with, you know, the integrity or anything of the contract. It's just that we, if we don't, you know, reduce it, then, you know, certainly you could say, well, they, you know, agreed to 60 hours. And so all of our training is going to be productive lab. So that's why, even though you say there's other training and there's other, you know, other ways that you can get the funding, you certainly could do all productive lab. And that's why I just wanted to reduce it and put kind of parameters around it before, you know, we make that approval. So.
Absolutely. We totally understand that and appreciate that and totally appreciate the panel's stance on this.
Okay, well, thank you so much. So before we make do you have any other comments, Gretchen, on this one?
I don't, not on this one.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to open up to the public for any comment they may have on this project.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, I'm going to ask the panel if they have any other comments around Ghirardelli chocolate. And by the way, I do like the chocolate.
Me too.
Very good.
We all.
Thank you.
So with that, just to be clear, we're going to reduce your productive lab hours down to 20 hours. And so with that, I'd like to have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve as amended.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. And who is that? Gretchen? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, tab number 9.
Good morning, panel members. Next, we have tab number 9. This is a proposal from J.R. Putman, Inc. Also, please note there is a correction to the wage range by occupation table for job number 3. The plumbing technician max wages are consistent with those in job number 1 and job number 2. We also have here joining virtually to answer any questions, Jeff Wharton's owner and Jill Musin, consultant, Synergy Management Consultants.
Hi, welcome. So with that, Gretchen, what are some of your comments regarding pulling this project?
Well, they apparently already fixed my primary concern of here to us of paying veterans a lower wage range than the other trainees and job creation. So I'm glad that that was fixed. Thank you very much for that. For the other applicants out there in the world, the Ethernet, please always pay attention to what your wage ranges are for veterans specifically. And I myself as a panel member do not ever want to see a lower wage range for veterans. It's something that irks me. So I'm really glad to hear that the applicant has fixed that. Thank you for that. And then this one also had a pretty high amount of productive lab again. 60 hours of productive lab with a trainer to ratio of 1:3. So I'd like to see if the applicant would be comfortable in reducing that down to looking at our 20 is the magic number today. And then a trainer to trainee ratio of 1:1.
Hello. Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Madam Chair, does that?
Yes, that was exactly what I also had in mind, because if you did the math right now, they would be up to 80% of the requested amount regarding productive lab. And I would also like to request a 1:1 trainee ratio and reduce it down to 20 hours of productive lab. And, you know, if you look under your productive lab curriculum, it's just a cut and paste of your commercial skills. So, you know, it's not, that's not really what productive lab is all about. So I just want you to kind of understand what productive lab is. So with that, I'll just open it up to the contractors.
So real quickly, guys, we had already agreed to a 1:1. I'm not sure that when we agreed with the veterans' wages, and Gretchen, I'm sorry, that was an oversight. I never want to see veterans' wages lower either. But we had also agreed to a 1:1 ratio earlier prior to the panel. So I'm gonna let Jeff talk a little bit about about the productive lab piece, and then I'll jump back in.
Hello. I'd like to first thank the panel for hearing us out. This funding helps us grow, helps us train green and skilled people, and make some productive techs in the field. So I do appreciate that. Our new hires typically require over 200 productive lab hours, and we're requesting 60, and that's the trainees. Getting them up to the 60 is still a fraction of what they need. The existing employees require a lot less. One of the things about productive lab in our particular business is in the classroom setting, they can get the theory training. When they get in the field, it's a lot different because there's so many different variables as far as construction type on homes. For example, if you have an airflow situation, there's a lot of times there's structural issues, space challenges to overcome, which in a classroom setting, we can't really recreate the problem and give them the ability to come up with problem solving that they're going to need as they become a more seasoned employee.
And I think my point here, and I don't want to drag this out because there's a couple of these, but is that when you talk about Jan, a huge fraction of it being productive lab, we ask for a max for certain populations of employees. Incumbents always need a lot less. So your average productive lab hour might be 20 or 25 hours, but the flexibility to go up to 50 or 60 or whatever the request is for those new hires, because those guys do need that training in the field. And at the end of the day, if the panel is suggesting that we have to go down to 20, we'll do that. But I just want to try and clear up the information that we're not just trying to put all of our training in productive lab. We do a phenomenal amount of classroom training, but that productive lab training, when there's a lot of variables in the field, that's how these guys solidify application from theory. That can't be, it's not a widget type situation. That's my only feedback.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Jill, on this, only because that it's, everybody has complexity in equipment, that's for sure. I mean, that's what manufacturing is all about. But that's not what you say when I'm looking at. It says that you're requesting 60 hours. It doesn't say, you know, we're requesting 60 hours for 7 new employees, or how many you have, or 35 new employees. It just says that we're requesting 60 hours, you know, and so it's not up to 60 hours, it's just 60 hours. So I just based it on how many employees that you had that you were requesting for on their job numbers, and that's where I came up with that amount. So it's not, you know, if you're saying that, okay, we're only going to use 60 hours for the 35 employees, you know, that's a little different than, you know, what I'm seeing here. So that's what I have to go by. I don't know what's behind your head and, you know, how you put this together, but that's what I see. And that's how I have to make these calls. So if that's what you need is 60 hours for your job number 2 and job number 3, you know, I'm okay with that if that's all you're asking for.
Point taken, Jan. We will specify it in further panel meetings so that it's really clear. And yes, that is what we're asking for.
Okay, so you're asking for 60 hours for the 35 employees in job number 2 and job number 3. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's better. That's better than my math. So okay, very good. So does Gretchen, do you have any other comments regarding that?
Yeah, I wanted a follow-up question of, does JR Putnam coordinate training with any apprenticeship programs?
JR Putnam is a member of PHCC, so they do coordinate baseline training with PHCC.
Okay, so is some of that training possible to get through the apprenticeship program, or how many?
We structure our proposals to be above and beyond and very specific to things that are not trained in apprenticeship training.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so before I ask the panel to make a motion, I'm going to open it up to the public for any comment.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you, Alana. So with that, does the panel have any other comments or questions regarding this proposal? Hearing none, do we have a motion? You have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Madison.
Second, Gloria.
And a second from Gloria. All right.
With those, right?
With
I'm sorry.
amendments.
With
With the amendment, I'm sorry, with the amendment of the 35 job number 2 and job number 3 up to 60 hours. Okay. And oh, okay, very good. So do I have a motion to approve? I've got a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Next one up is tab number 10.
Hello again, panel members. Tab 10, a training proposal for James Kasha Plumbing, Inc. This is a priority industry and it's not a repeat contractor. So this is their first time coming to ETP. Total ETP funding being requested for $133,975. And here today to answer your questions are Gino Kasha, the CEO, and I believe Scott Hardesty, Director of Operations, is with us as well, and Jill Manuson from Synergy Management and Consultants LLC, their subcontractor.
All right, so Gretchen, you had pulled this one.
Similar line of questioning toward the productive lab, but then also stated in the project details of the application is the concept of delivering an estimated 140 certifications to technicians that are critical to qualifying contract bidding process. What, if you can elaborate what those certifications are? We're big fans of certifications.
Sure. This is Gino Kacha. The certifications range from, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to help grow our people and give them confidence out there in the field. Thank you for what you guys do. Okay, certifications include, the act of joining the materials together to certifying how to troubleshoot and perform diagnostics on equipment like heat pump water heaters, tankless water heaters. And the variables around that.
Connected to the specific product, like that they would be certified in installing that specific product, or
Right. It's a mixture of it. We get the manufacturer to, give us the class, but then we need actual time in front of the machines to do that in the environments
okay,
they're installed.
yeah, we're big fans of certifications because it enables the worker to be able to have and kind of on paper that they've done this training, and then they can take that and apply that to their career as they move up in life.
They're super proud, man, like merit badges. It's great. But please ask away.
I was just scrolling. That was my primary one that I wanted to talk about. And then the productive lab concept. So I'll turn it back over to the chairwoman to do
Yeah, I did flag this one, but not so much. I mean, I like that you're a new employer. That's very important to me. In fact, I wanted to take just time right now to say that out of this month's panel packet, we had 30% new employers. So to me, that's moving up to where we'd like to be. So I appreciate that. The reason I didn't pull this one particularly was because you have a lot of trainers that are coming in to do some of the training. And to me, that is a big component. When I think of productive lab, I think of that there are certain types of machinery or certain types of things that happen that, you have to have outside trainers to help you with. So I see that you have quite a few outside trainer vendors that are coming in to support you on some of this training. And even though, you had about 50% of your training was productive lab, I didn't really think that, it was enough to pull, in my opinion. So those are kind of things I look at. I don't just overall just do a kind of a slash across productive lab. I look at a lot of components regarding productive lab. And so as far as I was concerned, this one kind of met all the criteria that I was thinking around productive lab. So.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
what we've seen before.
Yeah, so are there any other comments regarding this proposal from the panel? Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the public for any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so I would like a motion to approve the proposal.
So moved.
Second, Gloria.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, tab number 11.
Yes, tab number 11 is a proposal from La Tapatia Tortilleria. I'm sorry if I messed that up. Here joining virtually to answer any questions are Carla Moniz, Director of Human Resources, and Emerson Estrada, Consultant, Calbeck Group.
All right, so Gretchen, would you like to start this off?
This one jumped out at me because of the low wages for some, give me 1 second. I'm sorry, I've got too many screens up. For operations, the earnings of $15 an hour up to $20 an hour. I'd like to have the applicant elaborate on how soon, when the trainee is receiving the training, that their wages move up. And where do they move to in the $15 to $20 range? Because 15 is now the minimum, and ETP likes to take the high road for high road, good paying jobs, and people need better wages.
Thank you very much. This is Carla Moniz. Thank you for, I want to first thank the panel very much for your support over the years in helping our employees to improve their skill sets and expanding our operations. And to answer your question, Gretchen, team members do start, if it's an entry-level position, at the $15. We're in a high unemployment HUA area, and the prevailing wage in our area is $15 for entry-level positions, but they can move up within the first year of employment after they attain certain skills resulting from the training that we give them as part of the ETP training that we provide, and just in general training that we have. There's also opportunity within the first year to receive a annual review, and there's an opportunity there where they can move up. They can move up incrementally, anywhere from $15 to $20 for those entry-level positions as they gain more experience and have good performance. Also, something that I'd like to mention about our company is we really promote from within. We prefer to promote from within. So anytime we have an opportunity for a higher paying job, a supervisory position, something that is a higher skill set, we always post it internally first, and we prefer to promote from within because our employees have been working here, they have experience, they have knowledge, and those positions can pay anywhere from $20 to $30 an hour, just depending on if they demonstrate, leadership abilities. Many of our supervisors and our managers that we have today started in entry-level positions, minimum wage positions, and now they are supervisors and managers making much more over that. And I think that also helps us because we have employees that stay with us. We have employees that have been here 20, 30 years because they do see that we have an opportunity to grow within the company. We even have family members like fathers and sons that have come to work here because they say, they've had good experiences here, and we try to do the best that we, very best that we can for our employees. We have employee referral programs to bring in, other candidates that they know, and that's been a good thing for us as well. So I hope that answered your question.
It does. It does answer that question. I'm just noticing this is your fourth contract in the last 5 years. And if you go back, I'm going to want to see a little bit more of that story of the wage progression for the workers. But I thank you for your feedback today.
So I have a question as well.
Thank you.
So clarification, operations is a production worker, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so your production worker, a new hire.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Your production worker starts off at $15 as a new hire, is that correct?
It depends on what they bring to the table coming into the position. So some start higher because we were told that we have to put the entire range. We went with the lowest paying position, which would be 15, but there are people that start off at $16.50. Yeah, so it depends on how much.
Thank you. Based on their experience. So if they come from like another tortilla factory, you accept that as work experience, and they do not start off at $15. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And so transferable skills are highly valued by the company. So yes.
That's the word. And I'm just curious too, on that new hire that comes in at $15 or $16, how long is their probationary period before they get medical benefits?
I believe that is 90 days.
Okay, and then upon the 91st day, they're eligible?
That's correct. And we have a very competitive benefits program, which includes healthcare, dental, vision, 401k, vacation.
I mean, the things that you should have.
Yeah. But a lot of manufacturers don't. And so that is something that, that we want to offer our employees because we value them and we want to retain them for the long term.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding this proposal? I just have one question regarding the wages as well. So you do market studies, right? When it's time to look at increasing wages, you go out to your competitors in the Fresno area, because I'm familiar with Fresno. I grew up, I lived like 30 years in the Central Valley between Dinuba and Modesto. And so I know the wages are fairly low in the Central Valley. And so, and I worked in food manufacturing there as well. So is your wages equivalent to your competitors in that area, like Reese Foods or Mission or any of those other companies that are in the kind of same business you are?
Yes, they are. We do wage studies, and they're comparable.
Okay. So do you have a lot of people like leaving your company and going to work for your competitor because they have better benefits or better wages, or is that doesn't usually happen?
That doesn't usually happen. We have a lot of people, as I said, I think because we show an opportunity for a career path within our company to grow into other positions in other departments and leadership roles, we don't have that that issue with much turnover going to a competitor or a like job because of wages.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that you're a good company out there in Fresno, so I just was curious. I've been out of it for a while, so I don't really know exactly what's going on now as far as wage studies, so appreciate it. All right, any other comments from the panel regarding this proposal? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public for any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so with that, could we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion. Second. Rick.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you.
All right, up next, turn to tab 12. That is for Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation. And representing this proposal are Robert Hunter, manager, and Michelle Rickner, consultant.
Hi there. So yes, I did pull this only because, I mean, I love Northrop Grumman. I think it's a great company. I mean, you've come several times here. I mean, this is your fourth proposal in 5 years for about $3 million. So, it's pretty hefty. But, we want to keep these kind of companies in California. So I'm all in favor of that. The question I had was with Productive Lab. And I know that I had talked to Ryan about this already, and he had said that you were willing to eliminate the Productive Lab. And the reason that I had a question regarding that was because it seems to me that you've had Productive Lab on all the past projects, and so when did they actually become competent in the machinery? So that's kind of the question I had. And if you wanted Productive Lab, perhaps for a certain percentage of your employees, I'd be willing to work with that. But at this point, you wanted 300 of your employees under Productive Lab. And to me, that was up to 40 hours of training. So I thought that was too much for what I was looking at. I mean, it's only about 50% of your dollars, but so my recommendation would be either eliminate it or drop it down to just for your new employees. So that's, oh, you don't have any new employees. Okay, so just drop it all together then. So I don't want to know where you're coming from with that. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And Robert Hunter, you can chime in if you want to. This is Michelle Rickner with Training Funding Partners. We did speak about this earlier in the week. First off, unfortunately, that 300 is an error. Also, if you look at the total number of production people we have in the project, it's only like 195 people. So that 300 is an error in that particular section of the proposal. But we did indicate that we have had Productive Lab in previous projects, and we did not use it at all. In fact, in the last project, zero Productive Lab was used, all instructor led, which is why we put it in there as a safety net. But we realized that there's enough instructor-led classroom training that we will be able to earn all the money without Productive Lab at all. So we're willing to remove it altogether.
Okay, I really appreciate that. And here's the deal. These are the kind of companies that I would think would have Productive Lab would be the aerospace companies and the healthcare companies. I mean, that's the purpose it's set up for. But I noticed that so many of our contracts this month, didn't even request it. So and so that's why I'm, it just seems like counterproductive to what I would assume Productive Lab would be and the companies that would request it. So, but I do appreciate that, Michelle, and for looking at that. And if you eliminate it, I have no other comments. Does the panel have any questions regarding this proposal? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public for any comments that they may have on this proposal.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Well, real quick, Madam Chair, I think Mike was gonna say this also, but can you please make sure that the motion does have the revision
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
embedded?
it does, yeah, I saw that on the side, the eliminate the productive lab. I saw it in the comments, but yeah, to
So-
eliminate the productive lab, yeah. All right, very good, thank you. So with that, we have a motion and a second on this proposal with the consideration to remove the productive lab. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, panel members, please turn to tab 17, which is for Ducommun Aerostructures Incorporated, whom is a repeat contractor. They are requesting $321,494 to train 482 retrainees, which are located both in LA and Orange counties. Please note, we have received a union support letter for training on this project, and representing the proposal today is Sandra Mahoney, HR, and Steve Abbott, consultant.
Right. So does the panel have any comments or questions regarding this proposal? Okay, do I have, I'm going to open it up to the public if they have any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Madison?
Do I have a second?
Second, Gloria.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carried. Thank you.
Great. Up next is tab 18, which is for Skilled Composites LLC, whom is also a repeat contractor. They're requesting $437,460 to train 277 retrainees and 40 job creation trainees located in Kern County. Representing the proposal today are Amber Chefstall, administrator, and Barry Menzel, consultant.
All right. So yes, I have some concerns regarding this project. And I think Ryan has already talked to the consultant regarding this. But if you looked at the productive lab, let's see, let me do my math here. You had, you were asking for 40 hours for about 40 hours. Oh yeah, I didn't see, let's see, what did I write down here?
So Janice, I know you were asking for the number of trainees that were going to participate in Productive
Yes,
Lab,
yes.
and that was 176.
Yeah, so I didn't really see that on here. It's not, visible. So I couldn't really do the math correctly. But so here's the deal. If you look under your training curriculum, okay, under Productive Lab, you have got 175 titles under here. I counted them all. And a lot of them aren't, they don't even make sense. I mean, you've got cleaning restrooms and cleaning floors. That's not Productive Lab. So there seems to be a concern as to what the consultant is saying could be Productive Lab, because this is kind of a really abuse of using your training curriculum and just doing a cut and paste of everything that the company does under Productive Lab. So when I read that, this is what I'm thinking to myself is that, okay, everything that's going to be done in this proposal is going to be Productive Lab because you've got so much training curriculum under that. So I'm going to open it up to the contractor and the subcontractor to define exactly what you meant by this. So Barry, do you have a comment on that?
Jan, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we actually reduced the the Productive Lab. There was an email that went over to Ryan. I don't know, Ryan, if you have that information there. We made some errors that were unfortunate. We apologize, and we reduced the Productive Lab topics significantly.
Okay, I don't know what that means exactly. So you reduced them significantly down to 2 or 3, or, I don't know, what does that mean? So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, because we need to know, to approve it, to understand what you're looking at, so can you give us kind of an idea of what training curriculum will be under Productive Lab?
Yeah, let me pull that up here. I'm looking for the email that we sent over to Ryan. Amber, if you're on the line, if you're on the line, do you happen to have that email that we sent over to Daniel and to Ryan? I'm looking for it here real quick. I apologize, Jan. I thought I had it right here.
No problem. I mean,
Screen.
I'm just going to make a recommendation, to, cut your Productive Lab to 20 hours. That's, what I'm going to be asking for anyway. So however you want to, work that through, that's, about the right amount, I guess. So,
Okay. All right, that's acceptable to the contractor.
okay, and so another question I also had was, okay, so on your last contract, you were probably under a delegation order for $22,000, okay? So now you're coming through with almost the maximum of 437,000. I mean, from going from 22,000 to 437,000 is just kind of a big jump. So please enlighten me as to, what was the cause of that?
Well, the previous contract, the contractor was not really set up for a big contract. They wanted to start out small and be successful, which they were in the last contract. They've also increased production, so there is a future need for more training for their employees. So it was really just a matter of wanting to be a successful contractor in the last time around.
Okay, and do you feel that you can do 20 hours of Productive Lab at a 1-to-1 training ratio and still be successful?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, for that large amount of money. Okay, just wanted to make sure before we start to define that. Okay, all right. So you had said that you were going to kind of talk to us around what some of the training curriculum was on the Productive Lab.
Actually, I'm still looking for it right here. I'm looking for the email that we sent over to Ryan and to Daniel.
So here's the deal. When you talk about AutoCAD software, Excel, Intel Max, Insight, those are all software programs. Those are things that can be done, in a classroom or on the computer. So you see where I'm coming from with Productive Lab. It's not
Yep.
everything that you do. It's just really very specific types of training that takes place.
Yeah, it should be limited to manufacturing operations. Totally.
Right, mostly around heavy equipment, not so much good manufacturing processes, because all of those things, should be done in the classroom or before anybody gets out on the floor. You don't want to take somebody on the floor and then start teaching them about good manufacturing processes, because, they could be hurt, or, they could have quality issues right off the get-go. So you probably want to have all of that done previous to getting on the floor. So, so anyway, that's just a comment that I have around GMP. So.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, so Ryan, will you follow through with them on what the Productive Lab training will look like? At this point,
Correct.
I don't know what that looks like. So.
I was looking for the email, and what I found is what they were asking for was that Productive Lab for the following departments will be included: manufacturing, engineering, quality assurance, CNC, machine shop, and flight ops is the email that I have. So not necessarily specific topics, but we can work with them to make sure that we narrow that down to machinery topics.
Okay, and then narrowing it down to 20 hours only.
Correct.
Okay, and on a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay. Okay, so with that, I'm going to open it up to the panel if they have any comments or questions regarding this proposal.
Covered it all really well.
Yeah, I just wanted to have everybody understand what I was looking at on the training curriculum. I mean, it's, just, everything in the kitchen sink is in there. So, okay, so I'm going to open it up to the public for any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and go back through it again. One of them is reducing the PL training to 20 hours to 1-to-1 ratio, as well as reducing the types of curriculum that's under the P&L training. And Ryan has that information, so.
Motion to approve as revised.
Okay, very good. And do I have a second?
Second, Gretchen.
Okay, we have a second. First and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you. Okay.
Good morning, panel members. I'm here to present the proposal developed in the San Diego Regional Office. If you please turn to tab number 19, TTM Technologies North America LLC, TTM Technologies. This will be TTM Technologies' third ETP contract in the last 5 years. Before I continue, I do need to address a few corrections to the proposal. First, I will cover an overview of the corrections, and next I'll go into the specific corrections. So first, the total ETP funding on page number 1, the estimated number of trainees, health benefit value, amount of production staff / operators in job number 1 and job number 2, the wages for the production staff / operators in job number 1, and the wages for all occupations in job number 2. The specific corrections are the following. The total ETP funding request is $499,928. In the training plan table, the estimated number of trainees is 479 for job number 1 and 256 for job number 2. In the section below that, the health benefit value is up to $2.50 per hour to meet the post-retention wage for job number 1 and up to $1 per hour for job number 2. In the wage range by occupation table, the amount of production staff / operators in job number 1 is 69 trainees. The amount of production staff / operators in job number 2 is 96 trainees. The lowest base wage for the production staff / operators in job number 1 is $19.07. The lowest base wage for all 3 occupations in job number 2 is $16.81. So I know that was a lot to cover. So if you have any questions or want me to repeat a correction, please let me know.
So
Otherwise-
Calvin, how did it get so far out of bounds here with all of the corrections? What happened there? Do you know?
Yes. There was an oversight on the funding request going over the cap of 500,000. And in order to bring the funding request below the cap, we had to then change the amount of trainees, and that kind of has a ripple effect on other changes that need to occur. In addition, we also, in conversations at this time with the applicant / contractor, I determined that they also needed health benefit value added for these trainees. So we're making a note of that today as well.
Okay. Yeah, I did notice that 515 on there. I was thinking, how did that possibly get through? I thought maybe it was a critical proposal. Maybe it was some response. I didn't know what it was, why it was over the amount. I have no idea why that was an oversight, but all right.
Yes.
So that's the only comment that I had regarding this. And I think that I thought the productive lab was fine. There wasn't any issues there. So, okay. So anyway, but thanks for all of the comments on that. There's a lot of changes. And so with that, I'm going to open it up to the panel if they have any comments regarding this proposal.
I do. I had highlighted the production staff and operators wage range. Can you repeat that actually one more time for me for job number 1? The base is now lowered to 1907.
That is correct.
And for job number 1, they're seeking to use $2 an hour to meet that base wage of 1907. So it's really $17.
Not quite. So the base wage is $19.07 with the possible use of up to $2.50 of health benefit values to meet the ETP minimum wage of $21.57.
Okay,
So they still need to meet the ETP minimum wage of $21.57.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then for job number 2, what was it again? Even lower.
Yes, the lowest base wage for all 3 occupations is $16.81, and all 3 occupations might use up to the $1 of health benefit value to meet the $17.81 for the lowest base wage of the 3 counties associated with this project.
Great. I was of mind to do the opposite, of try to increase the wages to be the same as the base in job number 1, and we just lowered all the wages outright. I'm not comfortable like that.
Okay. So here today is Jessica Perales, HR manager from TTM Technologies, and Lisa Douglas, California Training Administration, to address any questions.
Thank you.
Right. So Gretchen, what were you going to see that the job number 2 wages go up to the job number 1 wages, or?
That's what I was seek. Yes, especially now that I know that they're much lower than what was presented to me as well. So is the comfortable with having the job number 1 base wage go up to $19.07 instead of $16.81?
Yeah, there's too many changes. I mean, because you're only talking about a $15,000 reduction on the total funding, Kellen, and it doesn't seem like the dropping the actual wage of the occupations is gonna, I mean, that really wouldn't be the deciding factor. The deciding factor would be how many hours of training that they do. So why did all of the wage ranges drop?
In order to use the health benefit value, the base wage is what the applicant is stating is lower than the ETP minimum wage. So when they need to use the health benefit value, their base wage is going to be lower than what the contractual ETP minimum wage is per county. So normally you might see that wage lower in the initial proposal, but when we've determined that they needed to add the health benefit value at this point in time, we also needed to correct that base wage as well to indicate the possibility of using up to the health benefit value stated for job number 1 and job number 2.
But so the 20, I'm just giving, and it's 2157. That doesn't include the 250 of the base wage.
That is correct. So some might not need the health benefit value, but if a trainee is making $21 an hour, then they would need to use 57 cents of the health benefit value to meet the ETP minimum wage during the retention period. So they're requesting that at this point in time.
Hey, this is Lisa. The ETP minimum wage is still the same for all the counties. It's just they're using health benefits to get there.
Right. But we need to indicate that their base wage is lower than the 2157, or you would not need health benefit value to make that wage.
Right.
Right. I think like what's really not sitting well with myself, at least, is under the job creation where we state that the panel offers incentives to companies that commit to hiring new employees. Training for newly hired employees will be subject to a lower post-retention wage. And so we're incentivizing lower wages with job creation. That's why I'd be more comfortable with this if we can move job number 2 base wages and the wage range to match that of job number 1.
Jessica, are you on there?
I am. So what I was going to mention is earlier this year in April, we did go through a market alignment. A lot of our base salaries have increased. A lot of the operators that we are hiring and are going through a lot of hiring currently have gone up to a minimum of like about 1941 with no experience. with experience, they're coming in a little bit higher. So on top of that market alignment, we go through an annual compensation review that was just processed in July. So those wages, you will see those above the 1681 for sure.
Okay, so are you, the applicant, comfortable with moving the base wages from job number 2 to be matching of job number 1?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I also have just a question about the 1-to-3 training ratio. I'm going to ask also to bring it down to a 1-to-1 training ratio. When I see the 1-to-3, you know, it kind of sets a red flag in my mind to say maybe you don't have enough trainers to complete the 1-to-1, and so that's why you want the 1-to-3. So so anyway, I'm going to ask you to take it down to a 1-to-1 training ratio under the productive lab.
That would be fine.
Right. Okay, so with all that, I'm going to ask the other panel members if they have any questions regarding this proposal. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public if they have any any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and do the modifications. We're saying that both job number 1 and job number 2, the wages are equivalent to the same jobs requested. And is that right?
Yes, moving wage ranges from job number 2 to match that of the wage ranges at job number.
Okay, very good. And then according to the other modifications that Kellen outlined for us, you know, reducing the ETP funding down to the 499,928, and then also reducing the number of trainees down. So there's a lot of different things going on here that he had mentioned. And then reducing the productive lab down to 1-to-1 versus 1-to-3. Is there anything I'm missing here?
So moved.
Okay.
It's amended. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion, a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hello again, panel. Let's turn to tab 20. This is a training proposal for Bay Ship and Yacht Co. This is a priority industry and a repeat contractor. Total ETP funding being requested for $322,000 to train an estimated number of trainees of 300 under job 1 for retrainees and 50 under job 2 for job creation retrainees. This will be Bay Ship's 6th ETP contract and its 3rd within the last 5 year. ETP funded training will only be delivered at the Alameda and Richmond facilities. And here today to answering your questions is John Savastano or Savastano. I apologize for mispronouncing that. Safety and training manager.
Right, welcome. So I just wanted to make a point on this one is that your productive lab is kind of right in line with what I would assume productive lab would be. You're only requesting about 20% of your dollars that you're requesting under productive lab, and your productive lab curriculum looks like it's right in order with what I would assume. So I don't have any questions, but I did want to point that out to the others that may be looking at this one going, oh, I probably need to follow their example. So anyway, so with that, I'm going to open up to the panel if they have any questions regarding this proposal.
I just wanted to see if the applicant would be willing to move the wages that are specified in job number 2 for the 25 individuals that are being proposed to be paid $18 to $20 an hour and 25 up to the same wages that are specified in job number 1. Starting them off at a slightly higher, it's really only 15 workers that would move up to the 2103.
Hey, this is John. Can you hear me?
Hi, John. We can hear you.
Hi, I'm sorry. It was a little, what was the proposal? Did you want me to change?
That's okay. You have under job number 2, under job creation, you use the incentive to create jobs and then pay folks lower, which isn't sitting very well for me. So can you move the wages of the 15 trainees up to the same wage range in job number 1? So going from 18 to 20 up to the 2103 to 25.
Okay.
Does okay mean yes?
Yeah, yes, because it's two different counties, so that's why I think it was different. But we could do that.
Okay, yeah, it has for us, job number 2 is the same counties, but you're using job creation under
Right.
that. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, does any other panel members have any questions regarding this proposal? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public if they have any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Okay, and as amended would meaning that you're moving the match of job number 1 and job number 2, is that correct?
Correct
Yes.
for the 15.
Okay, very good. So I got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, thank you, panel members. Let's turn to tab 21. This is a training proposal for Ernest Ungaro and Sons, Inc. This is a priority industry and a repeat contractor. Total ETP funding being requested is for $297,804. And that's to train an estimated number of trainees of 100 for job 1 retraining, 71 for job 2 job creation, and 7 under job 3 for veterans. This will be Ungaro and Sons' second ETP contract and second in the last 5 years. The ETP training will take place at the company's locations in San Anselmo, Santa Rosa, and its 2 locations in Petaluma. And here to data answering your questions are Nick Hartman, Director of Operations, Ernest Ungaro, owner, and Jill Manuson, Synergy Management Consultants, LLC.
All right. Does the panel have any questions regarding this proposal?
Is the applicant willing to match the wage range for the veterans and job wage range for the same tech position and job?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you elaborate for me on how soon the wages move up for the technicians in job number 2 under job creation in order for them to achieve the same wage range in job number 1 technicians and tech installers logistics?
Nick, you want to take that or you want me to take it?
I can take it.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for your time. I know everyone's got busy schedules. So we have a 90-day review process in place that's continuous throughout the year, and that's based on our tier training system. So everyone has the opportunity to move up in wage every 90 days based on their current position and the position they're training for.
Okay, so as they're receiving the training, they're getting more skills and they're moving up with their wages.
Correct. And we found that 90 days is a good timeline for both the training and the ability to move up in wages, especially with the cost of living in our area.
Excellent. Thank you.
Does any other panel members have any questions regarding this proposal? I do regarding the productive lab. So it is about 50% of the dollars requested under productive lab. 142 of your 178 employees are requested for 40 to 50 hours of productive lab. And the ratio is a 1-to-2. Now, thing is, I need to understand about further justification why you need a 1-to-2 ratio, because you're going to have 2 people and the trainer, and it's going to take 3 people to do a task. I just don't understand why you need a 1-to-2 ratio when you have 12 in-house trainers that you have mentioned here. So can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. The 1-to-2 ratio is only maybe about 40% of the time. Usually our installations take 2 due to larger equipment and weight of that equipment, and then 1 teacher for safety reasons.
I'm sorry, what was that again? You 2 people to install something, and what was that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2 people to install due to the size and safety factors for the equipment going into attics and crawl spaces, and 1 trainer for safety purposes and training.
Okay. So I'm still going to ask, maybe the one other person doesn't get productive lab, doesn't maybe fall into this certain many hours of training. Because if you look under the curriculum, it looks like you have, you know, a whole lot of different things to do here. And all of these things, you know, I don't know anything about valves, and if you need 2 people to do valves, or you need 2 people to do disposals. I know I can do a disposal by myself. I don't need 3 people to do a disposal for me. So, you know,
Correct.
all of those things. So I'm just, you know, you kind of look at that going, okay, do I need all of that, you know, 1-to-2 ratio for all of that? And when I always see that as saying, well, you don't have enough trainers to do it, but it seems like you do, because you've got 12 trainers listed. So can you bring it down to a 1-to-1 training ratio?
Yeah, that is okay.
Okay. Very good. Okay, that's the request that I had on that. Again, when you ask for more than a 1-to-1, you really have to have good justification for it. And every equipment is hard. Every equipment is heavy, and you know, sometimes the trainer will have to help you move it around or whatever. But that's what I would request. So okay, so does the panel have any other questions regarding this proposal?
Madam Chair, point of personal privilege, my battery is about to die, so I'm just going to go off camera and plug in, but I'm still here.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public before we make a motion. Is there anybody from the public that have any comments on this proposal?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so with that, I would like to make a motion to approve with the changes that were made for the wages to match job number 1 and job number 2, and then also the productive lab down to a 1-to-1 ratio.
So moved with those changes.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. I think that was Rick that seconded. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, so, okay, very good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Panel, please turn to tab 22. This is a training proposal for Herman Weisker Power, Inc. It's a priority industry and a repeat contractor. There is a union involved, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW Local 47. Total ETP funding being requested for $499,675 to train an estimated number of trainees of 95 under Job 1 retrainees, 130 under Job 2 for Job Creation Initiative retrainees, and 5 under Job 3 for veteran retrainees. ETP funded training will be delivered at HWP's Anaheim and Long Beach facilities. This will be their second ETP contract and the second in the last 5 years. And like I said, there was a union involved, so the union has submitted a letter of support for this training project. And here today to answer your questions are Chris Christie, President, David Ward, Director of Safety, and Lisa Douglas, California Training Administration, CTA.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming. Does the panel have any questions regarding this proposal? Okay, I do have one. Again, it's around productive lab, asking for, I did the math, and you're only at 16% of the dollars requested, which is great. You're asking for it a 1-to-3 ratio for certain safety tasks. That's acceptable, but when I looked under productive lab, under your training curriculum, can you tell me which ones under the productive lab are considered safety related? Just trying to get a feel for this. So, sorry.
Okay, mostly, this is Lisa. Mostly they look at their equipment, installing new equipment, and some of the, like for instance, they're installing new poles, electrical poles, and it takes more than, again, one person. It's usually 2 or 3, and they're training them at the same time to, that pole's not going to get scrapped. So they have, a few people that are learning how to install the poles while they're doing it.
Okay, so can you specify what percentage of them are safety related tasks for 1 to 3? Because that's what you mentioned here. you want the ratio not to exceed to 1:3. The 1:3 would be used for safety related tasks. So.
Yeah, I
Good
would,
morning. This is David Ward, if I can elaborate. So some of our high-risk activities required by OSHA and also by the union. But OSHA standards, they'll mandate, for example, 2 people have to be in a bucket in support of one another, and then they have to be observed. If they're, for example, they're an apprentice, it's mandated that they are observed by a journeyman lineman. And so you would have a trainer that's observing that process. You'd have like the journeyman lineman on the ground practicing 3-way communication to the 2 guys in the bucket. And so we're kind of mandated as to how many people are supposed to be involved in that process. And so that's an example of where we would have, a 1-to-3 ratio.
Okay, so out of the 10 to 30 hours of productive lab, would you say that, how many of those, would it be, I'm just trying to get a feel for the, the exception. I don't want everything to be to 1 to 3. And when you're doing your, rosters or doing your LMS or whatever, I want to make sure that when it goes through like any kind of monitoring our process that we have it down, where we know it's 1 to 3 versus 1 to 1. So.
Yeah, I would say in those types of scenarios is probably at least 40 to 50%.
Okay, so we could say that 40% of the training can be a 1 to 3 ratio and 60% would be a 1 to 1 ratio. Would that be acceptable?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the panel regarding this proposal? All right, before we make a motion, I'm going to open it up to the public for any comments.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so with the exception of reducing the 1 to 3 ratio to 40% of the productive lab and 60% at 1 to 1, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as amended.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, Gloria.
Gloria, second. We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, panel members. Tab 23, I was just informed the contract rep would request to pull this proposal and come back at a later panel.
Okay. So tab number 23 is pulled. Okay, 24.
Okay, next up is tab 24. This is a proposal from Crystal Creamery, Inc. They're a first-time contractor requesting $285,200 to train a total of 310 workers, including 10 veterans. Training will take place at their 23 facilities throughout California. Here joining virtually to answer any questions are Denise George, HR and Payroll Manager, and Lourdes Urande, Consultant, Consultrex, Inc.
Hello. So we're coming down to the end here, and you've heard my dissertation on productive lab, and I'm looking at your productive lab, and it is back to it, looking at how many employees, how many hours. I did the math. It was 205 out of 310 employees were requesting productive lab, up to 55 hours at a 1 to 3 ratio. I said, that's 91% of the dollars requested. This is where I wrote no go. Some of the machinery is robotics, which really needs a 1 to 1 training ratio, not a 1 to 3. So I'm going to recommend, about 25 hours of productive lab, not 55 hours of productive lab on a 1 to 1 ratio. So, and the reason I say that is because if we wouldn't look at this a little closer, you would be doing everything under productive lab. So, so that was my comments, and I know that you have robotics and I appreciate that. And that's what I look around, advanced technology. That's when we're talking about, that's what we need Productive Lab for. But you have more employees and not everybody's going to be working on that KUKA robot, you know, so.
Yes, thank you very much. I think you provided a good description for us and we're in agreement with your recommendation.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Does the panel have any other comments or questions regarding this proposal? Where are you located in Modesto, by the way?
Right off of Kansas Avenue off of 99.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because south Modesto.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I used to work in Beard Industrial Park there.
Oh, not far away.
Not far.
Not far away.
Far away. All right. Okay. So I'm going to open it up to the public if they have any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to ask the panel to
Motion to approve as amended.
As amended, and the amended would be reducing the hours to 25 hours on a 1-1 basis.
Correct.
All right. And do I have a second?
Second, Madison.
Madison's the second. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your help.
Okay, and last up, we have tab 25. This is a proposal from MAG Instrument Inc. They are also a first-time contractor requesting $225,400 to train 196 workers. Training will take place at their facility in San Bernardino County, and here joining virtually to answer any questions is Jim Zacchini, Vice President, and Barry Menzel, Consultant, Training Funding Source.
Hello. So I'm going to ask the panel if they have any questions regarding this proposal. Okay, I'm going to make a recommendation on this one as well, just to be consistent with what we've been doing through this whole month of proposals. You're requesting 160 employees of 196 go through 40 hours of Productive Lab. That's 65% of the funding requested. So I would request to reduce the Productive Lab to 25 hours. And that would be my recommendation. And another comment that I have is the human resource manager is overseeing the whole project. Plus you have third-party TFC that's also helping you out. But I just want to know a little bit more about the human resource manager and his around his understanding of ETP and what's required, because it's you know, HR managers, and Gloria can attest to this, are notorious for staying a few years and then jumping ship and going somewhere else. So this is the things that we see as a panel, that the justifications why they didn't perform was because the HR manager was in charge of it and now they're no longer there. So those are kind of things that I just want to make sure that the HR manager is in place and is going to be in place, you know, through the probably the majority of the contract. So. Any comments on that? Whoever's representing.
Can you hear me? Jan, can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Okay. Jim indicated that also the manufacturing manager would be handling the documentation and scheduling and organizing all the training. So would be assisted by the HR manager, but primarily by the manufacturing manager.
Okay, that's fine. You know, just as long as I see that under our 130, you know, I don't see that. So, you know, and HR managers are usually kind of the legalese of the company. I mean, they kind of, you know, are hands off a lot of times. I know Gloria is probably saying she's a hands-on HR manager, but a lot of them are kind of hands off. And so I just want to make sure that you have somebody from manufacturing that's, you know, more involved in the training organization, collection of training, documentation, and that sort of thing. So if the manufacturing manager is there, that's fine. So.
Yeah,
Okay.
manufacturing manager primarily responsible along with the manufacturing supervisors.
Okay, okay, very good. So that's what I like to see when I see under the training infrastructure. So just FYI in the future, just kind of make that a little bit more robust.
Thank you.
And then also, are you in agreement to reducing the productive lab hours to 25?
Yes, that's fine. We'll work through that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So does the panel have any other questions regarding this proposal? Okay, before we make a motion, I'm going to open it up to the public for any comments regarding this proposal.
There is no public comment, but Lisa did raise her hand. Oh, actually, Lisa's not on this. So Lisa Douglas, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. And this is just basically related to all the PL limits and how it kind of creates a bit of an issue on the back end. Who's tracking the limits? I don't believe that Cal eForce has any tracking mechanism if you go over productive lab. And so who's policing it? Is it they're going to find out at the end that they've over uploaded productive lab thinking they're made all their hours and now they get 10% less hours because they don't realize that they've overdone it, and especially people that are new to the project. So
but Lisa, this is a great question. Can we just table it here until we come to the end of the session? I would like to finish off this project before we go ahead and move on to public comment. But that's a great question that I also have concerns with as well. So with that, do I have any other comments relating to this proposal?
Not at this time.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve with the amendments to the 25 hours of training?
So move, Rick Smiles.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second, Gloria.
Yeah, we have Gloria and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion carried. Okay, so that pretty much ends all of our proposals, and I really want to appreciate all of our contractors and all of our stakeholders, bearing with me on this. As you know, coming up, we're going to be talking more about this during a subcommittee meeting, and some of Lisa's concerns, who I'll go ahead and identify here in a minute, are also my concerns as well. So, but anyway, so with that, let's see, what else do we have on our agenda?
Thank you, Ryan.
Back to the agenda. Okay.
I think it might be requesting whether or not there are any agenda items from the panel member.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm going through all my paperwork here. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so are there any other agenda items that we like to talk about for future panel meetings from the panel? Okay, hearing none. Okay, now this is the time for public comment, and we'll go ahead and open up to public comment. And I know Barry had a comment that we tabled to this time, and Lisa had a comment. So I'm going to open it up to Barry to ask his question regarding some of the comments from Jaime.
All right, and I actually do believe that was Larry, so I'll go ahead.
Oh, Larry, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Jan. It's not the first time that
I'm sorry, Larry.
our names are too close. So yes, Barry and I, over the 10 years or so we've been doing this, have been confused. So my question comes back to the comments Jaime made regarding invoices being paid. At one time, I was told that an invoice for a progress payment should be processed or at least started within 15 days of it being submitted. And a final payment should be worked on within 45 days of the time it was submitted. And clearly, as you acknowledged, this isn't happening. So going forward, what is a reasonable time for us to wait before we after we've submitted an invoice, before we start sending emails trying to find out what's going on? Thank you.
Good morning, Larry. Thank you for the
question. As you stated, yeah, the standard turnaround time for processing progress invoices is 15 days, and then the standard time for processing final and closeout invoices is between 45 and 60 days. That's standard. Obviously, because we have the backlog currently, that's gotten pushed out a little bit. We are working through that backlog, as I previously mentioned. I think a 30-day on the progress invoices is pretty standard, or not standard, but is reasonable at this point because of the backlog. But as you know, we're trying to get through the invoices on a first in, first out kind of process. So that's part of the reason why it's taking a little bit longer. I will also say that, as everyone knows, additional time may be required based on the reporting of the quarterly wages, verification of retention requirements, and other potential clarification needs that there may be on a particular item. But just to provide a little bit of data, I guess, around all of this, we currently have about 123 invoices that have been assigned to our fiscal team and are being worked. The backlog that we currently have is approximately 83 invoices right now. So that's where we're at. I ask for your patience as we work through it. Appreciate the patience. And like I said, if you please do contact us within 15 to 30 days if you haven't heard from us on the initial progress invoices, please do contact us. And then between 45 and 60 days, if you haven't heard from us on the final or closeout invoices, please do contact us as well.
Okay, thank you.
So Jaime, do you have like a time on this where, like you say, by the end of October we'll be caught up, or the end of November we'll be caught up? Do you have any kind of timing on that?
Yeah, I'm very hopeful that with what we're doing right now, and we are setting some strict periods. For example, last week, I know that if you contacted the fiscal team last week, you probably received an email response back saying that they were working on a special assignment. That special assignment was working on those invoices. We wanted to make sure that they focused all their time on those invoices, so we had them not address new other items coming forward. So I do expect that we will be back to somewhat of a normal state, because as you know, invoices come in, invoices go out, so it's constantly changing. But I do expect that we will be back to a normal invoicing processing time, I would say within the next month.
In the next month. So then everything should be paid out by next month, or no, not until?
I wouldn't say necessarily paid out. Part of that is because there may be a need for clarifications, and that means we contact the subcontractors and get additional information, and we have to wait for them to provide that information. So I can't commit to everything being paid out because of that, but I can say that we will engage, meaning they'll be assigned to one of our analysts, and then they'll be working it to make sure to get it processed.
Okay, very good. And is there any kind of method or any kind of systems that you have to let our stakeholders know where they are, in the 90-day process of getting paid out, or within, anything like that? So, a lot of this money is their livelihood, and, it's nice to know that they have some sort of time frame as to when they would get paid out. So is it like, I don't know if you do that or whatever, but would be something that they would at least have to hold their hat on, if to know exactly where they are in the process. So
that's a good question. I'll follow up with the team to see if I do believe once they're assigned that analyst, then it does engage with that contractor. So they would be getting updates through that process. But I'll check in with the fiscal team to see if there's any other general updates that they provide.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So Larry, did that answer your question?
Oh, he was muted earlier.
Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, okay. So any other hands raised? I know that Lisa had some discussion regarding the productive lab.
Yes, Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thanks for this. I just wanted to make sure we're not missing something here in Cal eForce, where a simple solution would be if they could create a report listing all the employees who have the PL and their hours, and then also inputting I guess it would be an error when you upload productive lab beyond the number that was stipulated in the contract. That would save a lot of time and headache for everybody. I just didn't want the monitors or fiscal to be the police on who's over entering hours.
And I can speak to that a little bit too. I definitely hear what you're saying. We have these parameters on the contract, and we could definitely look at creating alerts or features where you've hit the maximum and creating reports to be able to do monitoring for that. So that's something we can definitely look into.
Okay,
So-
that would help a lot, yeah.
So Lisa, so how do you keep track of things that has certain percentages on, like safety training, like you have 10% safety training? So how do you manage that through Cal eForce now?
Oh, you don't. You just have to keep track of it on a spreadsheet. It adds hours and hours of work on the back end. It becomes an administrative nightmare when little things start popping out like this. And if subcontractors or admin people know what they're doing, they can actually keep ahead of it. But if not, things get missed, they get uploaded, and no one's policing it.
Mhm. Okay, I mean, I guess as you're, I know if you're a subcontractor, I mean, you're probably looking at rosters all the time and trying to define what's going on. I know that all of that is, probably what you get paid for, but yeah, I know it could be very overwhelming. I know sometimes to try to define that, but regardless of whether it's 25 hours of productive lab or 65 hours of productive lab, you still have got to monitor one way or the other, so.
Yes.
All right, do we have any other hands raised?
We do. Let's take a look. We have Alistair. Go ahead.
Hi there, Alistair Rounson with Butte College. Just wanted to express appreciation to Jaime and the fiscal team. We've had a couple of contracts plus a single employer contract, and a number of pending invoices pending reconciliation dating back to January, but we've definitely noticed over the last couple of weeks the movement. So appreciate your team's attention, and yeah, recognize we're all in it together. So on behalf of our clients, the employers, and the team here at Butte College, just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Alistair, for the positive comments.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Okay, and it looks like there are no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, very good. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved, Gloria.
Okay, so we have got everybody wants to leave, so we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and then we'll see you, everyone in person next month. So have a good month, guys. Bye.
Safe travels, everybody.
Bye-bye.